Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you all doing? Okay, today we are going to start with Haji Shariatullah. The last two reformers we did were Shah Waliullah and Shaheed Bareilly. The third reformer that we are going to do in detail is Haji Shariatullah. Dadu Mian and Titu Mir, we are not going to go into too much detail. We are going to just touch upon it. One of the students asked that why do we have to write in a 14-mark answer about Shah Waliullah and Haji Shariatullah when the question was about Shaheed Bareilly's work? The question did not demand, beta, that you write an account of Shaheed Bareilly's work. The demand of the question was that was the work of Shaheed Bareilly most successful during that century, during those years? And in that century, we are talking about reformers who were working. It was not just Shaheed Bareilly. Haji Shariatullah also worked for the revival of Islam, and Shah Waliullah also worked for the revival of Islam. Then they are asking you to justify that why do you feel that this person's work was more important and how this person was more successful. So if you're not going to compare with some other reformer's work, how are you going to prove that his work was more successful compared to others? Personally, I feel that every person plays a vital role. It is not one man's job. But still, if I want to say this, I need to write about their work and I need to justify my opinion. I hope this answers your question. And in your syllabus, these three reformers are there and they come together only. Whenever a question is going to come like this, you have to write about all three. If they ask you about Haji Shariatullah's work, then you are going to write about Shaheed Bareilly and Shah Waliullah along with it. If they ask you about Shah Waliullah, then you have to write about Haji Shariatullah and Shaheed Bareilly's work in the same manner. Only the change of paragraph will be there. Okay, let's proceed. Yeah. Okay, Haji Shariatullah, we are going to study about his early life. We are going to study about his education, which movement he started, and who were the people who followed him. Okay, now Haji Shariatullah, if you talk about, he also saw the decline of the Mughal Empire. Now, after the Mughals, right, especially after Aurangzeb, how the Muslims were drifting away, how the influence of Hindu culture was coming on Muslim culture, on Islam. When he saw this, that how things are going in the wrong direction, he started his movement. Now, his movement is known as Parisi Movement. And it is one of the movement which started in Bengal. And through this movement, he made people realize about the basic principle, about the farz. Now, if you talk about his early life, he did not belong to a very rich family. He was just 8 years old when his father died. And his father was a farmer. Okay. And then he had his early education, and for higher education, he went towards Calcutta, and then he received his education in a madrasa known as Furfura Sharif in Murshidabad. And this map you see, this is his place where he used to live, Madaripur district. This is the one where he was living. Okay. Now, Haji Shariatullah used to travel and he went to Arabia where he received his religious education. And there also he learned Persian. Now, every scholar is learning 2 or 3 languages. The reason behind, again, that the language of the time. that you need to study that language, as obviously you are communicating with the people and you want to convey your message. How are you going to communicate if you have a language barrier? So for that purpose also, he studied Arabic and Persian. Uh, in his stay over there, he was influenced by many leaders, and he spent good 20 years abroad, and he studied, took his uh, master's degree and in Islamic scholarship. Okay. Now here let's talk about Parisi movement. Now, uh, he was a very prominent leader. Now he did not pick up a sword. We call about Shah Waliullah that he was a man of words, right? Through his words, he made people realize about their beliefs, about how they are going in the wrong direction and they should come back. He pointed out the weaknesses. Shahid Barelvi, along with the words, thought that you need to pick up a sword. Now, if you come to Haji Shariatullah, he also followed the same footsteps of Shah Waliullah and Shahid Barelvi. But he believed that first we need to correct our basics. That is, we should follow our farais first. We should not forget about our fars. Now, see, he started the Parisi movement. He was the most prominent reformer who started reviving the Islamic thinking among the Muslims of the subcontinent, especially Bengal. Now, in Bengal, he started this movement amongst the oppressed class. They were suppressed by the landlords, Hindu landlords. Now, a time came when obviously nobody was looking at them. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always looking at us. We get divided, we follow wrong paths, and we get misguided. Now, what happened obviously in Bengal when these landlords, these farmers, these peasants, when they were working for Hindu landlords, for every need, they would go to the landlord. Now, what happened that gradually their, religion got mixed up. They forgot about their own first duties and they started making their landlords happy. And for that, they started following their rituals. You believe them, you believe in their rituals or you do not believe in their rituals. That's not important. The important was that they were making their masters happy. Now, for them, it was like that whatever they need, whatever they require, they would go to the master, the landlord. So, like, celebrating the holy, their functions, worshipping their lords, and touching their feet and getting involved in their rituals. Because for them now they were everything. In this way, we were moving from our path, from our right path. And that's why we were being suppressed, oppressed, and we were losing our self-respect. That was the point where Haji Shariatullah, he said that you understand the basic. The slogan of the movement was, "The earth belongs to Allah." The earth belongs to Allah. Here, earth belongs to Allah. Now, everything that is here, we are just focusing on this. He said, just focus that this whole everything belongs to him. So he is the one you have to approach, and you don't have to feel that some other person is going to fulfill your needs. The term Farisi has been deduced from the word fard, your fards. standing for compulsory and mandatory duties. If we talk about our duties towards Allah, it's what? Your salah, right? Your fast, and the most important, coming here, Tawheed. At least, at least we do these three things. I'm telling you, we will never be misguided. Because these three led to everything. Hajj and Zakat are basically something that if we can afford it, we can do it. And he started this movement amongst the poor ones, right? So if he reminded them, believe in prophets, believe in angels, this all comes to, a bit later. First, you talk about Tawheed, that everything belongs to Allah. Then when Allah created everything, so definitely Allah created your angels, your prophets and everyone. Then Salah. And when we know that we have to go to Him, He just said, focus on that you're answerable to Him. That's why this movement is known as Parisi Movement. And the people who follow this movement are known as Pharisees. Pharisees. Okay? They are known as Pharisees. The leader of the Pharisee was called a Ustad or a teacher. How beautiful this thing is that. That you did not call them, a peer or murshid. We are not sitting on higher caliber, higher status. No, Ustad or a teacher. Reminding the students of the first that they owe towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that they owe them to themselves also. That you have to give respect to yourself. You should know what you are. If you're not going to do, then obviously people will not do. And the disciples were known as shagird or students. A person so initiated into the Pharisee fold was called Tawabir Muslim or Mu'min. See, the one who followed this movement is known as a Mu'min, the one who Allah loves. It was a religious reform movement found in rural areas of East Bengal. It was basically a very peaceful movement. There was nothing like that we want to create violence or we want to create any problem for anyone. But obviously when this movement started, later on this movement became violent because people started coming up. People started, creating problem for the Muslims. Now, as he was reminding people of their fires, we started moving from our landlords. We started realizing our duties, our culture. So this became very alarming for the Hindu landlords. And they started creating problems for us, due to which this movement later turned out to be violent. Now here also Britishers, when they saw this movement, they also got a bit, they were taken aback that how the Muslims of Bengal, they stood up. So they exiled Haji Shariatullah. They took him out from there. They worked out. Okay. Now the basic aim was to discard un-Islamic. See, his aim was not to create any violence. His aim was not to create problem for anyone. He just wanted to discard un-Islamic practices from our religion. We are not supposed to be superstitious. We are not supposed to say irrelevant things. We are not supposed to ask or seek from anything from anyone but from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our focus, our vision, he wanted us to get that straight. So the term Pharisee has been deduced from Fard, standing for compulsory and mandatory duties ordained by Allah. The Pharisees are thus those bunches of men whose only objective is to implement and impose these mandatory religious duties. The promoter and initiator of the Parisi movement, Haji Shariatullah, however, had represented the term in a different light and sense, implying the implying to assimilate every religious duty ordained by the Quran as well as by the Sunnah of the Prophet, while remaining firmly in the Hanafi school of Islamic jurisprudence. This as a former. This was his main work. You can write as a 4 mark also, you can take pointers from here. In his work, what was his work basically? We are talking about here. This is basically the work of Haji Shariatullah. Okay, so when you write about Haji Shariatullah's work, you can take these pointers from here. In one paragraph, these 2 paragraphs combine and make one. The growing popularity of the movement amongst the people of Bengal alarmed the Hindu landlords who harassed Haji Shariatullah. Now, objective of the Parisi movement, I have discussed with you, to make society pure from Hindu traditions. Now, because we were living with them, so their customs were also getting mixed up with our religion. Like we have discussed earlier also, that we became superstitious. Till date, I see many people, they're very superstitious. Breaking of a glass, milk overflowing, cat passing by, other things. And you know, we also have these things that black magic will happen and you should do this and you should do this. No, for us all this is irrelevant. In our religion there is no such thing. We celebrate weddings in a way. This is not in our religion, we took it from there. Mehndis, these Mayu customs, wearing yellow dresses and fixing things, it is not in our religion. Then you talk about widows, remarriages are allowed in our religion. But because we have lived with them, due to that, we were influenced. And especially when, I don't know, but birth of a daughter, or thinking that daughters should not be, you know, they're not of so much importance, they're a burden. In our religion, no such thing as that. Women and men have been given equal status. But you will see in many places that still people, they make difference between that. This is exactly the thing that we need to purify. Caste system is not in our religion. The difference between rich and poor, black and white, there is nothing like that. But people do it. People have done. People have created differences. It should not be there in our religion. To reform the faith of Muslims and protect them from shirk, where people go and ask, like people say, Ya Ghost Park. People say many other words. And they go to the mazars and they ask those who are lying dead for I don't know how many years, ages. And they go and ask them. Not permissible. This is shirk. So again, we mixed up. We are not supposed to do that. It's not that you're not allowed to go to mazar. You can go to mazar. That's your personal belief. But going and asking that, the person lying in the grave, he was a very pious person. You're not supposed to ask him. You're supposed to approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's to improve the conditions of the Muslim farmers and encourage them. Now, how to improve their condition? Obviously, when they will be on the right path, then only. To motivate the Muslims towards the Islamic obligations, to revive the teaching of Islam, to revive the teaching of Islam and prepare the Muslims to pass this life simply according to the teachings of Islam. Simple life, we should not be materialistic, and believe me, when you become simple, when things are simple, your life becomes easier. Okay, this is the wish, a 7-mark question that comes. Why did he wish to revive Islam in the subcontinent? Believe this wish. 7 mark. Beta, I cannot make it much easier, okay? I'm trying to, and you all have this in your book. Please, when you come for the class, when you sit to listen to the recordings, please do have your books with you. He believed that the miserable condition of the Muslims in India led to this country being Darul Harb. What do you mean by Darul Harb? A place where you cannot say your Eid namaz, where you cannot say your Jummah namaz, because it is ruled by foreigners, other people, not Muslims. He wanted them to return to what he thought was proper observation of Islamic duties called Farais. That's why he started his movement. He supported the idea of jihad. Now see, jihad can be done in many ways. Now here, when you're coming back to your religious obligation, you're doing jihad, you're saying no to wrong things. This is also jihad. Jihad does not mean just picking up a sword. Jihad can be done in many different ways. Okay, so we came back to our true principles of Islam by denying, by not mixing our religious duties with other religion. Okay. Okay. Now, failure. Why the movement failed? Again, a 7-mark. Why the movement failed? Why did... my writing is becoming better. Why did Parisi movement... I had to say, I spoke too early. Movement failed. Okay. A 7. Okay, the movement failed because of lack of political leaders, Hindu attitude, anti-Hindu attitude, the way the Hindus were responding, religious narrow mind, extortion and lack of proper leadership. See, I always tell you, when we don't have a proper leadership, lack of leadership. It was propagated in the British territory and was crushed as soon as it became a threat. Now, Britishers, I told you, they crushed because they did not want to become famous, and they did not want it to become so huge that once all the Muslims gather and then they have to leave. The jihad movement failed because of the mistake of its leader and their lack of understanding of the social and political situation of the place and the people where they wanted to establish Sharia rule. Now, sometimes we do make errors. We need to be very sure of what we are doing, where to implement what, where to start what. For that, we need to have a clear, where we need to have a clear goal and vision. Now, because we had many enemies, so obviously there were many things that we had to face, and we did not have so many political leaders with us. So obviously it created a problem. It did not fail in that way, but yeah, a lot of hindrances, a lot of obstacle. So we are not talking in a very broader perspective about the failure, but yes, at that point, why it did not spread so far, the reasons are here. Okay, today we'll end our class here. Inshallah, in the next class, we are going to discuss about the legacy and I'm going to discuss past paper questions also. We are going to talk about Dadu Mian and Titu Mian. And as I told you earlier, we are not going to go in a lot of detail about Dadu Mian and Titu Mian because they don't ask you about Dadu Mian and Titu Mian work in detail. So the work that you need to be very thorough with is Shah Waliullah, Shaheed Barelvi, and Haji Shariatullah. So in the next class, inshallah, we are going to talk about Dadu Mian and Titu Mian. Till then, Allah Hafiz, take care, see you soon, and hope and keep on making dua that hope these times they just pass away soon. Allah Hafiz.